Thank you, Jen. You always got my back. So I just wanted to thank, everyone thus far. I think today has been phenomenal. All good things have to come to an end, but we're not there yet. So, I just wanted to thank everybody who was present today. I wanted to thank everybody who played a role in helping us pull this together. And I'm really excited about where we're about to go now, as we close out and wrap up the day. And as Jen pulls up the presentation, for some reason, something popped up on my screen, Jen. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So now we're going to transition, and we are going to have a conversation on our fathers, and what's our plan for moving forward. And we are fortunate enough to have William Fothergill, one of our partners, and he's been there from the beginning with us through this work. And he is someone who I admire dearly, and he has a great way of listening to conversations, and sort of bringing everything together in a way that everyone on any level could understand, from very, very basic to the academic level. So without further ado, I won't take any more time. I will pass it over to William Fothergill from CCSU.
Thank you. I'm trying to figure out, because I always say in my presentations that I have like adult onset ADHD, so I need the capacity to kind of move a little bit. So again, this has been a great conference, and I'm going to take a little time to kind of summarize and then say the few words that I just want to speak in regards to this conference. And and I think Brother Anthony, he kind of downplays himself because he's a great visionary. And I am just so grateful that I've had the opportunity over these 7 conferences to be a part, and for him to open up his heart, his mind, his spirit, and his passion for this work with men, and allow me to be a part, and allow my students who are a part of our Brotherhood Initiative to be a part, and allow our campus as a whole to be a part. And then I can't close by not saying a few words about Jennifer. She is just wonderful. I would have to use the whole dictionary to describe her passion, her commitment to this work, and the vision to come and where we're heading. So again, I was asked to do this conversation as a kind of a wrap up. And so this is participatory. So I like participation. So I'm gonna start by a little quiz, because sometimes when you do these online trainings and so forth, sometimes there's a quiz, and we can all be grateful because this was free, So I just want to do a little quiz, and there is a prize. So Jennifer, I'm going to ask you to keep an eye on the chat. And this is for the first 3 people. I'm not going to tell you what you're going to get. You will get it, and we'll get your information, and we'll get it to you, but it is a prize. All right. So again, we heard so many comments about what today is, but then there's a context that to me is really what this day is. So any of you, first 3 people, what is today? What is the special recognition of today, November 19th? I'm just watching. All right. Come on. Last few seconds. I haven't seen it jump up yet. Maybe it has. Jennifer will let me know whether it has. Okay, I'm going to stop to move on to be timely. Today is International Men's Health Day. So happy International Men's Health Day. When we look at this aspect of fatherhood, fatherhood fits into a larger context, and that's men's issues. And we have to be real about that, because through these 2 days of trainings, we've kind of focused on some safe terms, and Dr. Mortensen kind of challenged us, and I loved it. She challenged us to really deal with some stuff that we really don't want to deal with, that we don't really want to wrestle with. It's safe for us to talk about fathers, but in the context of manhood, that's a taboo. We don't want to talk about what men are going through and what men experience and what men are denied and the disparities that impact the lives of men. So again, to me, this conference is a montage of all of those things, the things that we can shout about and be passionate about, and also those things that some of us cry about. So again, this is as I'm going through this presentation, I really want all of you to be a part of the presentation, and there will be a time when I'm going to ask you for your input. So again, but before we get into the context of our title is Engaging Men, Moving Men from Risk to Resource. Pow! Engaging men, moving men from risk to resource. Many of my students realize I'm a word person. There's power and passion in words, and we don't really use words randomly. Sometimes our words are very constructed to how we live our lives out, but we don't even have the connection with the words that we use. In my work, I kind of look at my work as like soul work. I do a lot of inner child work, and so here's this jar of these little babies in this little jar, and a part of my work with men is helping them to reconnect with their inner selves. And so again, one day, my hope is that jar will be empty, because men will begin to internalize that part of themselves that's the most vulnerable part of who they are as human beings. So just as a recap in the takeaways from today. So we started off with Dr. Beebe and Dr. DeVitro. They brought us the data. They identified the health factors and confirmed the relevance of fathering on the lives of children, families, and communities. What's the takeaway? The takeaway: we must collect data, and we must respond to what we discover. Next, Mr. McGraw, passion. High energy presentation. He demonstrated the passion we all need when we look and we work with boys and men. He emphasized uplifting the male population, stir up their spirits, help them to see. So many times in our work with men, we condemn, we criticize. And many of the presenters today really helped us to see the why, because sometimes it's just about survival. Sometimes the behaviors that we see is survival, is how to get through, And sometimes it's easier for some to shut down those emotions than to deal with the flood of those emotions. So if we can try to understand the context. But Mr. McGraw kind of told us, let's find that person. Let's uplift them to the excellence that they have the potential to live out. And then the staff at IMRP, they created a forum where fathers' voices were heard. See, I love that. I just love hearing the stories. We were exposed to the stories of these three men in their roles as fathers, the joys and the challenges, and how they navigated systems. The takeaway: we must listen and seek to understand the lives and the perspectives of these men. Sometimes we discount. Sometimes our structures, our policies, and our practices keep the truth that is theirs, in the background. And we need to elevate more fathers to speak up. We may not like what they have to say, but one thing I always talk about is all of our stories have value, whether others agree or not. our narratives have value, and so does the narratives of these men. And then Mr. Smith emphasized the work of the Felt team and its collaborative partners as they work to strengthen families through their work with families and fathers. Takeaway: we must seek to expand resources and collaborations that meet the needs of boys and men in the context of the family system. And next, Dr. Gordon, he explored the risk factors and the multidimensional aspects of fathers in the community and family systems. Takeaway: we must become informed so we can move the work forward. And then Dr. Mortensen examined patriarchy through a feminist lens. Takeaway: we must challenge ourselves to examine and embrace the relevance of the feminist theory to the work that we do with fathers and men. I want to thank her for her honesty and her passion, because I think for most of us, being in that seat in the subject matters that she was addressing are uncomfortable for many people. But I just loved her candor, because she wants to educate. She wants to include. So sometimes we have to listen to the information we really don't want to hear in order for us to grow. And then our series of monologues, captured and archived the heartfelt stories of these men, these fathers. Takeaway: we must collect these rich narratives because they demonstrate personal realities that so many people want to ignore. We must hear and we must embrace. So now let's deconstruct this conference. And this is where you are invited to be a part of this wrap up. So again, if we can go to the next slide. So what does it mean to engage? Because we have to look at engage. It's a wonderful title, but it has no context until we bring context to it. What does it mean to engage? And I'm going to ask people that, let's unmute and hopefully we can navigate the various voices, but I'm hoping that there will be some voices. So what does it mean to engage? Somebody.
Well, engaging means putting yourself into it wholeheartedly, letting go of your biases, learning your weaknesses and the strengths of the men that you're trying to work with. For me.
Love it. Love it. Come on. What does it mean to engage? Because we've been challenged by this conference. We've been inspired by this conference to engage.
It means meeting the father where they are at.
Woo! Meeting the father. And in order to do that, in order to meet the father, sometimes I have to be humble within myself. Mm-hmm. See, I call it sitting at people's feet. I may need to sit at their feet in order to really hear what they have to say, or to take into account, or to value their experience. Thank you. Come on, come on. What does it mean to engage?
Hi, this is David. Engaging means to me, like the brother said yesterday, was not giving a handout, but giving a hand up. Not leaving them. When we engage, we have to be mindful that we meet them where they are, but we do not leave them where they are.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. Come on. Let's do about two more.
I'm not in a father role in life because I'm young, but
oh, yes, you are. Yes, you are. Embedded in every man is the potential to be a father figure in somebody's life. But go ahead.
Absolutely. I would say engaging means to accept help, even though you might not be ready.
Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful.
I would say engage would would mean to be present.
Mm.
Because
Can you
most
tell
of
me a
us
little bit
who are
more about the
there,
presence? Come on.
okay, what I mean is we're there. Most of us as social workers, we're there. We see our clients and we, have all our checklist, and all that. But to be present is to be attentive, to be empathetic, to actually be respectful.
Mm. Love it. Love it. Yeah, everybody's right. Because right now, we're all engaging, whether you're speaking out, whether you're typing in the chat, whether you're just listening, we're all engaging in this work. So everything that was said is true. Those are some action steps. If we can do those things, then we move closer to being able to heal and to help and to inspire hope in these men and in the context of the families that they're a part of, in the communities also that they're a part of. All right, next slide. So again, some of you already covered these things. These are just some adjectives. Active, the root of engagement is actively committed. If we can just be actively committed, whether it's listening, whether it's connecting, whether it's anything that brings us closer to the oneness with those that we serve. Next slide. So next word is men. So we had engaged men. So what do we know about men? And what do we understand about men? Because so many times we only look at the little tidbits, the societal stereotypes, in the harm factors, and we don't see the person behind it. We don't care about what contributed to that. So what do we know about men, and what do we understand about men? Come on.
I will say what we know is that men are stubborn. And what we understand is that when they do get help, they have the power to do extremely incredible things in terms of helping others as well.
Thank you.
This is David again. We're all different in our own way, but we are all similar in some ways as well.
Beautiful. Thank you. Come on, one more. What do we know? Because again, this conference is about, working with fathers in the context of their lives and their communities and in their family systems and so forth. And so we've got to know the population that we're working with. So many times, and somebody brought up, and I think it was Dr. Mortensen talked about, gender competence. And I like to use the word agility, because sometimes we just got to navigate around a person's perspective and worldview and so forth. But we've got to know. We've got to be competent in this area of working with men, understanding men's culture. That's why the data and all of the presenters are weaving this web for us to be able to take that information and not just listen to it, not just hear it, but infuse it into the work that we do. It shouldn't be put on a shelf. Everything that you read, everything that you hear, it's about how do I incorporate this? How do I integrate it into the work that I do? Next slide. So the ideal doesn't work for men either. Because sometimes we put this ideal up there and we're acting like this is something that men, aspiring to be. I've been working with men and boys for a very long time. And many of these things are traps. And I like this picture because to me, it's almost like I was going to have one of my mannequins. I have these mannequins, and I was going to take this mannequin, just wrap them in like cellophane wrap. Because imagine if we just did that. We wrapped the person and they would just suffocate. They would overheat. It would be uncomfortable. They would die. Well, that's the context of what this societal view of masculinity is. See, I teach on this campus that we've got to reclaim what masculinity is. We've let it be hijacked. People have taken the word and distorted it. So we've got to look more closely at what it really is. And we have to preach and teach and inspire a healthier context of what masculinity is. If we want to live into the constructs, as Dr. Mortensen kind of talked about, if you want to live into the constructs, then let's look at all of it. That fathers can be passionate, that's masculinity. Can be courageous, that's masculinity. Be kind, that's masculinity too. Why? Because I see it in men every day. I see those attributes every day embodied in the men that I work with, in the men in my community, in the men in the organizations I'm a part of. So society's definition of masculinity is suffocating and killing boys and men. Next slide. It ties them down. It restricts their ability to move and to navigate life. It imprisons them in the bars and in cages that they can't be freely human beings. They're born as such, but somewhere along the journey, they've got to give it up in order to take on what I call the iron jacket. They're shackled. They're crushed and overburdened by these terms and in these constructs. They're gagged where they can't talk about their feelings, their thoughts, their beliefs. It hangs them. They're cuffed. We've got to set men free. When we set men free, we can set fathers free. Next. Next. Moving. Moving them where? Where are we going? Because some would say we just going on circle in a circle. Some of this, like we talked about day one, some of this information's been out there forever, but we still haven't done anything with it. Systems still don't want to really create the change that's necessary or make the commitment to it. So where are we heading? All right, open up the mics. Don't get silent on me now.
Can you clarify this question? Moving them where?
I want you. Where are we going? Because that's in the title of our conference. We're moving them. Where do you think we're moving them to?
I would want to move us in the direction to be equal as our counterparts with being custodials and more responsible.
Okay. Because see, movement, when we talk about movement should have a destination. That's almost like what I say to my students sometimes. You know, we can be going somewhere, sometime, get there someplace and meet somebody. Where are we going? Who are we meeting? What are we going to do when we get there?
This is David again. We're moving them to their purpose.
Okay. So to get to their purpose, we've got to listen, right? We got to appreciate, right? We've got to tap into their worldview, their perspective about life. Because that's person driven purpose. Come on, somebody else.
We're moving men or wanting to move men into the mainstream of our understanding of what is important to children and families. And we're wanting to move men into equal consideration with all of the factors that support children and support families.
And we must remember that this whole concept of movement is a journey collectively, right? We're not pushing men. You know, we're not using words like that like men don't know, and we got to educate and beat up men. We're moving them collectively because we're moving with them. Because we're learning along the path with them. We're suffering with them. We're beside them when they can't stand. We're before them when they need somebody to lead. You know, we're under them when they need somebody to lift them up. See, that's movement too. But we have to have a destination. Next. What are the risk factors? All these 2 days, we've talked about the risks. So what are the risks? What are the risks of the individuals that you're working with? These human beings that you're working with, what are the risks? And risks could be self-imposed, and sometimes risks, many of them are imposed upon us. What are the risks?
I think a risk can be that of discomfort. There's the risk of being wrong, of being misunderstood. But I think ultimately the risk is just staying present and being willing to take it.
Thank you. Thank you. You can go to the next slide. And said, and what or who are the resources? You know, because again, we can lift them up, but if we're lifting them up to nowhere, or we're lifting them up to judgment, criticism, defeat, you know, so what are the resources? What resources are out there that are really tackling this issue? Again, these 2 days pointed out so much for us to know where the resources are and the limitations of those resources. Because we can have resources, but sometimes the resources are not effective in their ability to meet the need. Or sometimes we develop resources without the context of the individuals that we're developing the resources for. Or sometimes it's how we deliver the resources. I might have the greatest resource in the whole world, but if I'm not delivering it in a way that respects the individuals that I'm working with, then why should they come? Why should they be a part? So we must identify what these resources are. And we need to make sure that they're published, and we need to make sure that they're available, and we make sure that we've got networks that can connect those resources. That's why I love this collaboration with Felt in the Dads Matter 2 conference, because we're connecting the dots and the resources. I'll give you an example. When Anthony and I first kind of talked about his vision about doing this, he was like, Fothergill, I got this conference and I got all this stuff. And he said, but I don't have a place. And I said, you know what, brother, I got a place, but I don't have all other stuff you're talking about. So we began that first year at CCSU, sharing resources. Next. So resources we must address: the emotional health, the physical health, the financial health, the spiritual health, the educational health, so forth and so on. We have to have resources that addresses the whole man, the whole human being. Next. And to be a man, I'm going to kind of end my point of this presentation with this video. And before you show it, Jen, you know, I just want to preface by saying this is my disclaimer. There's some language in this. So again, you know, if you gotta put, you know, close your ears for a few. But again, it's the honesty of this this presentation. I should say, listen to the words, what it means to be a man. You can start it.
When we're talking about prevention, we understand the difficulty in that. We understand it's not an easy thing to do, this idea of creating positive culture change, and people have to have that willingness to give a little bit, but it's worth it. Everybody has a place in this work. You don't have to do it as a profession, just as a person who wakes up every morning and either goes to school, goes to work, stays at home and takes care of the family. You're a part of a community. So you're a part of this.
I'm a ride or die type of guy. This means that my loyalty is unwavering and I will never hesitate to throw that first punch. So if you ask me, what does it really mean to be a man? For me, it means being strong.
Even when I'm weak.
It means holding it down.
Even when there's no one there to hold me up.
And when it becomes too much, I just suck it up.
Even when I can barely hold it in. I remember being 5 years old and falling down and my coach telling me to brush it off, even though I was on the verge of tears. I remember being 10 and learning that it was an insult to be called gay. I remember being 15 and knowing that if I had to fight someone to prove that I'm not a pussy, then that's exactly what I was going to do. But then I think to my mom and all the women who made me the man that I am today. The women who taught me how to love and how to nurture are the same strong women who gave me my ethics and my values. And if these women are strong, then so am I. And with this newfound strength, I have some confessions to make that don't necessarily align with the dominant story. I like to cook, and I am great at it. I also play the violin, and my hidden obsession is dancing with the stars. So I'm tired of acting like I don't care. I'm tired of shrinking myself down to fit this idea of what a real man is. I'm tired of loyalty meaning bros before hoes, and me worrying about whether or not I'm being a cockblock. I'm tired of performing.
It's been happening to me for as long as I can remember. It happened to my father, and it's happening to my brothers. Masculinity can be this uncompromising force that suffocates me, and with every breath I sweat until there is nothing left but a puppet waiting to take the stage. A puppet whose hard exterior protects him from feeling anything warm, like love, joy, and happiness for too long.
But tonight I will take my final bow because I am done. I quit. I will no longer let your narrative be my reality. I will no longer be society's puppet because I now know that the dominant story, your story, is not the only story. And with every step I take away from you, I learn that I no longer have to take your cues to tell me how to walk, how to talk, how to dress, or what to think.
We think that because we are strong, we cannot be wrong. And because we're alike, we are right, but this is what makes us puppets. Masculinity cannot afford introspection because it's a form of self-reflection that requires us to question everything. So I ask again, what does it really mean to be a man? When we tell our young boys, man up, stop being a bitch, don't cry, and we excuse their violence by saying, boys will be boys. He hit you because he liked you. It was just locker room talk.
Each is an excuse for abuse, so let us not get it confused. This is a men's issue. And as soon as we decide to be a part of the solution, we can start to clean up this pollution that has given rise to toxic masculinity.
My masculinity cannot fit in a box.
My masculinity will not conform.
My masculinity is diverse.
But most importantly, my masculinity is my own.
Next slide. So again, engaging men. You are a part of this. Thank you.
Brother Fothergill, we thank you so much for tying all of that together for us. Powerful video, just a powerful presentation. You already know how much I appreciate you, so I just wanted to say thank you once again. And I also wanted to, as I started off, thank everybody for participating, administration, all of the felt team, felt members, everybody who's doing the work, that's actively out there doing the work. Encourage your coworkers, for those who work outside of the agency, encourage your coworkers to find ways, new ways to engage fathers. You know, the whole premise of this conference was really looking at how we can be inclusive of some of these fathers who we may not necessarily feel may be appropriate. And that might just be a feeling that we feel internally. And I think throughout the course of the last couple of days, we realized that we just may have to dig a little bit deeper to get a better understanding of who these individuals are. And if we can get them in the right service delivery and get them in the right space and place, we've seen over the last couple of days, despite some hiccups that men have had in their past, many of them turn out to be phenomenal fathers. I also want to thank DSS again and the support of the Connecticut Fatherhood Initiative and all the work that they're doing across the state. And with that being said, I am going to turn it over to Jennifer so she can do the final wrap up and tell you any additional information you may need to know about the CECs or CEUs, evaluations. And I'm just humbled and grateful that we had an opportunity again this year to provide this information. And I can tell you, the minute we get off this conference, the planning committee will convene and we'll start talking about where we go next year. So your evaluations and your suggestions and recommendations really weigh into what we do next year. So thank you all. And I hope you all have a great weekend and great holiday.
Absolutely. And hopefully where we go for next year is maybe we'll be in person. Hopefully, who knows? Hybrid model, who knows? We'll see where the future takes us. But as I did yesterday, I will also be doing it today, sending out the brochure and the links to the evaluation and the CEC form. Go ahead and fill that out. Please give us 2-week turnaround to get that certificate to you. Thank you so very much for being here and staying a little bit extra. I do realize the time. Enjoy your weekend and hopefully we'll see you next year. Take care, everyone.